Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's PC Gaming News Recap. Never mind the fact that it's been over a month since the last one of these episodes. The past is in the past. Let's move on with the future. All right, so first up today, I want to talk a little bit about the future of Guild Wars 2. So they start off here by saying that they were humbled by the reception to End of Dragons, and that while it may seem like a natural point to start winding things down for the game, that they are, quote, happy to say loudly and emphatically that Guild Wars 2 has a bright future ahead of it. Now, last July, they started making some big changes to the studio and to try to meet these ambitious goals and make them a reality. And all of those things, in addition to the most recent expansion, have really started to pay off. They've been seeing some incredible growth. Specifically, they say that the number of active Guild Wars 2 players has more than doubled over these past 3 years, and that End of Dragons has outsold the previous expansion, Path of Fire. Apparently, there is going to be a fourth expansion. Now, we shouldn't expect this to happen anytime soon, as there is still more content in the works for End of Dragons, but they will be doing a fourth expansion for Guild Wars 2. Also, the Season 1 Living World will be making a return in 2022. This will be to help bridge the gap between the personal story as you level up and then Living World Season 2. This is also going to let players earn many of the legacy achievements and rewards that were previously unobtainable for some time. Steam launch of this game is still happening. You might remember that Guild Wars 2 was supposed to be coming to Steam. I think they had originally planned to do this last year. That got pushed back as they instead focused on the End of Dragons expansion, but they are still planning to do it. Hopefully they are going to be targeting this year, they say, but they are not certain. They haven't committed to anything, as they are focusing first on fully releasing the DX11 support. As of now, it's in the beta. And then also world versus world improvements are going to be happening. They'll be looking to address population balance issues with the core systems and the rewards, and they released a roadmap for all of the new content and updates that are planned from now up until the end of June. Now, I gotta say, having recently got back into Guild Wars 2 myself, I have pretty much been playing this game non-stop since the End of Dragons expansion released. I've really enjoyed it. I've completely played through End of Dragons. I've been playing as an engineer. I've maxed out all 3 of my specs, the Hollowsmith, the Mechanist, which is the newest spec, and then I also just finished maxing out Scrapper, which I've been playing around with. And I've also gone back and checked out some of the other expansions. Like, I actually just finished Path of Fire, and I am going to then next move on to Heart of Thorns or Heart of Thrones or something. I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Guild Wars 2 recently, and I've really been enjoying my time with it. And for this reason, I'm happy to hear that they are going to continue to support this game, but I'm also feeling like I kind of would like a Guild Wars 3. It's nothing against Guild Wars 2, because like I said, I've been playing it a ton recently. I guess it's always just nice when you get that big step, like from Guild Wars 1 to Guild Wars 2. I would be so interested to see what a Guild Wars 3 would look like and what sort of lessons they would learn from the current iteration moving on into a newer one. I don't know. That's just not the reality that we live in. And that's not the reality for many MMOs nowadays. They're just much more likely to get continuous updates and support rather than scratching something and starting over fresh. Speaking of MMO expansions, we have recently got a leak of the next World of Warcraft expansion. According to some lines of code on the official World of Warcraft website, looks like the next major expansion might be named Dragonflight. Now, these lines of code in question make mention of pre-purchase packages available for a base, heroic, and epic version of the Dragonflight expansion, and they also point to this URL, dragonflight.blizzard.com, which, according to web certifications, this was officially registered just last week, so it's a fairly new thing. Now, nothing here is concrete. There have been no official actual announcements of the expansion. These could just be code names. They could even be an attempt at misdirection by Blizzard themselves, although this does lend some more credit to a leaked post on MMO Champion that came back out in February, which said that the name of this next expansion was going to be Dragonflight. So the fact that we're seeing lines of code mentioning Dragonflight as on their official WoW website, I mean, that'd be a very big coincidence. It would also be a very strange thing for Blizzard to do, to just kind of like throw people off. I don't know, that feels like a strange thing, like a bit of a reach that the company would do just like to mess with people. You know what I mean? What's really cool is some of the things that this leaked post mentioning Dragonflight from back in February mentions in terms of specifics about the expansion. Now, this is just a leak. Nothing is officially announced here, but with the names matching up, it's pretty interesting. So what did it talk about? Well, they say that the main enemy is going to be Chromatus, and there will be lots of minor stories all about that. The expansion would consist of 6 disconnected zones, with 2 of them being revamps of older zones that exist in the game. And they're also going to be adding 4 micro classes, and what this means, that it doesn't mean like tiny characters, but classes with just 1 spec rather than being a full class with 2 or 3 specs that most classes in WoW have. So they make mention of a Dragon Knight, which would be a tank spec using 2-handed weapons, theming of fire with plate armor and shouts. The Tinkerer, which would be a damage dealing spec who uses guns, mail armor, gadgets, and mech suits. The Minstrel, a healer spec that uses leather, lutes, violins, and pan flutes. And then finally, the Chronomancer, a healing spec that uses cloth, time, and sand magic. Also exciting though is the mention of these class skins for existing classes. So there'd be a Dark Ranger skin for hunters that would add dark spell effects, and you could tame undead instead of normal animals. A Necromancer skin for warlocks, which gives you plagues instead of curses and has you summoning undead instead of demons. A Nightmare skin for druids. These would be corrupted spell effects and animal forms. It mentions a Dragonsworn skin for shamans with draconic spell effects and forms. And finally, a Warden skin for demon hunters that uses arcane and holy magic instead of fell magic. And then finally, some other features and content include player housing, a carpenter and logger professions, Dalran as a capital city once again. Would that be the 3rd expansion with Dalran as a capital city? And then they also say that there would be no raise to the level cap. Instead, this expansion would all be about power gains, basically item level gains. All of those specifics that I just mentioned were from a leaked post, but again, that leaked post said that the next expansion would be called Dragonflight, and now we have mention of Dragonflight on the official World of Warcraft webpage. That doesn't confirm anything, but boy, oh boy, again, unless Blizzard is just pulling a fast one on everyone just to screw with us, to like throw us off the trail. If all this leaked stuff is true, I think that's pretty cool. I would definitely want to come back and check out some of these micro classes. You know, my larger feelings about Blizzard as a company nowadays aside, if we're just talking about the game itself and new content coming to WoW, these leaked bits of information of potential content is I guess appealing to me would be the main thing. Either way, we will be finding out and getting full confirmation of whatever this thing is called and whatever content it's going to have very, very soon. Blizzard does plan, they have announced that they will be officially revealing the next expansion later this month on April 19th. The vampire-themed battle royale game Bloodhunt has gotten a release date. It will be officially launching pretty soon on April 27th. This comes after months of updates and patches that were made during the game's delay from what was originally planned a late 2021 launch, but at the time they went into Steam Early Access and said that after player feedback they wanted to make more changes and improve the game. And in the time since, they have worked on improvements to performance, to combating cheaters, overhauling the new player experience. They recently added a new class, among many other things. Now, from what I've heard and seen, this game does look to be in a pretty good spot right now. I'm pretty happy with the improvements and changes that they've made. From the gameplay that I've been watching, I've watched a few YouTube videos, it seems like performance is much better. And just in general, I am really looking forward to this thing coming out. This is a pleasant surprise as a new game that we'll get to play later this month. I played quite a bit of Bloodhunt last year. I got access to like an early test server basically. And my biggest complaint at the time was the game's performance. But overall, generally, I enjoy the game. And now beyond being a battle royale, it's got the vampire theming overlay. So you can climb up the sides of buildings and you'll spend a lot of time jumping around rooftops. You can suck the life out of human NPCs to heal yourself. There'll be different classes to play as that each have their own special skills. They're like stealthy themed vampires, tanky vampires, support vampires, and you do all of the typical battle royale stuff. You'll run around looting weapons. You can consume NPCs to get buffs for the match, like increasing your damage and your tankiness. And of course, you'll be fighting other players as a ever-shrinking circle closes in. I will say, I feel like they missed a great opportunity. You know, so many battle royale royales do the shrinking circle thing, but being a vampire themed battle royale, wouldn't it have been so cool if they did like a daybreak thing where as the match goes on, the sun comes up and it pushes everybody to a spot? It could be really cool, right? And then if you get caught by the sun, you turn a stone or something, whatever happens to vampires, I don't know. But that, like, small gripe aside, when I played Bloodhunt, I thought it was generally pretty good, as long as the performance is better, because yeah, that was a little rough. But yeah, this will be launching very soon, once again on April 27th. It is a free-to-play game, and of course with that, they will be having cosmetic microtransactions, and I'm assuming a battle pass of sorts, but I actually don't know for sure whether or not that's in the game. I don't quite recall. Speaking of vampires, the survival game V Rising has a closed beta test currently underway. Now, unfortunately, this is under NDA, so we're not seeing any new like gameplay or discussion videos about this. I didn't get into this thing anyways, so even if I was playing, I couldn't tell you because of an NDA. But just in general, I gotta say this looks great. I'm very excited about this game. As a reminder, this is the newest game from the Battlerite developer Stonelock Studios, and there seems to be some, lukewarm feelings about this title because of how they've handled prior games. From my perspective, every one of their games I've really enjoyed playing. I really liked Battlerite, I liked Bloodline Champions, and yes, I enjoyed Battlerite Royale, although I do empathize with people who are fans of base Battlerite, as the Battle Royale spinoff does seem to have had a negative impact on that original game. But all of that aside, I feel like they've made, I know that I've enjoyed playing the games that they've made, and so for that reason, I'm fairly confident that I will enjoy playing V Rising. The biggest question at this point is going to be, though, how are they going to support it going forward? Are they going to make the same mistakes that they've made with their titles in the past, functionally abandoning them? People really have loved their games, and that's, I think, probably the crux of the issue, is that people have enjoyed their games so much, and so it was so disappointing when they didn't get the support that the player base would have liked. So hopefully with V Rising, that is not the case. It has enough of a player base that they continue development and it gets support and it does really well. But we'll see. All of that is, who knows how good this game is going to be. I am hopeful, but we won't know, of course, until we actually sit down to play it. Earlier this year, we learned that the in-person event for E3 2022 had been canceled, but we were still expecting some digital event to take place like happened last year. However, this past week, the ESA informed its partners that digital event was canceled as well. So this marks the third year in a row with not only no in-person event, but now we have no digital event either. 2022's in-person event was canceled, of course, due to COVID. In 2021, they still felt like in-person wasn't going to happen, but they did a digital-only event. And now in 2022, we have no in-person and no digital. Now with this, I've been seeing people say that this is the end of E3 as we know it, although according to a statement from the ESA themselves, that is not the case. They would say that, but based on what they're saying, it looks like E3 will be returning in 2023 with what they call a reinvigorated showcase. To quote them, "We will devote our energy and resources to delivering a revitalized physical and digital E3 experience next summer, whether enjoyed from the show floor or your favorite devices." Your favorite devices? The 2023 showcase will bring the community, media, and industry back together in an all-new format and interactive experience. We look forward to presenting E3 to fans around the world live from Los Angeles in 2023. The ESA adds that the 2022 showcase has been canceled so that the organization can focus its resources. Certainly understand that it's not like not a lot goes into a digital event, but also, it's funny, their quote here that they say that E3 2023 is going to bring the community, media, and industry back together. The industry's doing just fine. That's really the thing, E3 could disappear and there would still be plenty of showcases of games, as we've seen. Many of their shows have popped up in these past few years, with companies running their own events like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo all have their own dedicated events for their games, but also various outlets as well. In fact, in the wake of E3's digital cancellation of this year, PC Gamer announced that their show, the PC Gaming Show, Diablo will be returning on June the 12th. Of course, Jeff Keighley is constantly having his own shows and productions in the works. Summer Games Fest will be coming back this year, as well as the Future Games Show. There are lots of shows and showcases for gaming and games nowadays, especially with companies getting more and more comfortable with putting on their own digital events. You don't necessarily need these in-person events so much. When it comes to new game announcements or companies just showing gameplay trailers, or a lot of the digital-only events absolutely suffice nowadays. I guess the biggest benefit that E3 had is it was like the tentpole production where everything kind of came together. But even that is really no longer the case. We're seeing companies pull out of participation in E3 in favor of doing all of the stuff that we just mentioned that's happening. So we'll see what happens with E3 going forward. But when it comes to 2022, it'll not be happening. Diablo 4's quarterly update just recently came out. This one focuses on environmental design and specifically talking about how they're achieving their thematic targets of a dark, low fantasy gothic horror with many layers of things like art and visualization, lighting, environments, props, and interactives. Now, beyond all the technical talk and behind the scenes stuff, they also released several short videos showcasing some open world locations in the game, as well as some dungeons and catacombs, and all this stuff looks really cool. I will say, visually, I like the theming that they're going with. It's more realistic, it's more gritty, and you know, as nice as it is to see the game world, though, ultimately, I feel like this was a pretty lackluster update. I just don't care so much about I appreciate the work that goes into games, I do, but I don't care so much about the specifics and the nitty-gritties of how and the reasons behind them putting together their visual aesthetic. I just want to see the end product, and I just want to play the game, of course. But for the people who are interested in diving into more of the nitty-gritty detail, it is nice that these quarterly updates happen. Just selfishly, I want to see some more gameplay. I want to see the game in action, but who knows at this point? I mean, I think there's a good chance we could still be 2 or 3 years away from a launch of Diablo 4. It's almost certainly not coming out this year, and I would honestly be surprised if it even came out next year. Things have really slowed down at Blizzard. They've got a lot of stuff that they're working through, but also we've got that Microsoft acquisition that's happening now, and I just don't know that I'm just not expecting anything from Diablo 4 or anything, or Overwatch 2 for that matter, or anything else from Blizzard in the next year or two. I'm really not. Boy, oh boy, how things have changed in my perception of Blizzard as a company, and in the reality, like things have changed at Blizzard. Without question. I'll talk about something I'm really excited for, and that is the Cycle Frontier. This was a pleasant surprise this past week. I had heard that the beta had been extended. It's running from now until April 19th. You know, as a result of this, I was like, oh yeah, I remember the Cycle, the original like PvEVP game. It was kind of like a battle royale, but with like questing mixed in, you know, and this whole extraction thing. Well, their new game, the Cycle Frontier, is basically like an Escape from Tarkov style game in a sci-fi space setting. And yeah, I decided to jump in and check it out, and I am hooked. I've got to say, I really enjoy the gameplay loop. You've got your character, you've got this home base, and you set up basically your inventory. What armor do you want to bring? What weapons? What consumables? And then you launch onto the game's map. There's actually 2 different maps available, but you launch onto the game's map, and you go out and you try to do stuff. Whether you're completing a quest for one of the various factions and doing progression that way, whether you're harvesting ore or just trying to get a ton of money by going around looking for materials and resources, and then trying to extract without dying to one of the many other players who are also on the map. The whole experience, the whole gameplay loop has been a lot of fun. I'm having a great time. I'm probably going to make at least one dedicated video showing off and talking about this game. But anyways, the point is that the beta was extended. Yes, it's going to be running for another couple of weeks. It was super easy to get in. I went to the Steam page and requested access, and I think within an hour that was granted. And no, I don't think my account's flagged as like, hey, this is some YouTube guy. It seems pretty easy to get in is the main point. So if you guys are interested in checking this out, I just wanted to let you know the beta is happening. It's lasting for another 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks now. And I like it. I think it's worth checking out if you yourself are interested. All right, just a few quick things here before we wrap up this video. First off, we got a release date for Warhammer 40k Darktide. This will be launching on September 13th later this year. This is the newest game from from the developers that made Vermintide. Warhammer 40k Darktide is going to be a 4-player co-op action FPS game where you'll fight together with your friends against horde of enemies in the Warhammer 40k setting. This looks dope. I've really enjoyed my time with the Vermintide games, and I really like this new iteration essentially. And we got a bunch of new games revealed that I want to quickly touch on. First up, there was Marauders. This is a tactical first-person multiplayer looter shooter in a sci-fi universe. You play as a space pirate. You can play solo or in squads of up to 3, navigating hostile battlegrounds, hunting for loot, crafting new weapons and gear, and salvaging to survive. Hyper Light Breaker is a new 3D co-op adventure from the Hyper Light universe. It'll be coming to Steam Early Access in spring 2023. Quite a departure from Hyper Light Drifter, and actually interesting to note, it's a 3D game, and also it's going to be a roguelike. So yeah, they're making some big changes from the prior iteration, but I'm still intrigued, and I'm keeping my eye on this. And Ghostbusters Spirit Unleashed. This actually looks kind of cool. So it's an asymmetrical multiplayer game. You can play as a Ghostbuster, joining with others to try to trap ghosts, or one player will play as a ghost, hiding, sneaking around, surprising, scaring, and sliming the Ghostbusters. So yeah, this is asymmetrical multiplayer. It looks pretty good. I'm actually really surprised. I seeing the trailer for this, I was like, hey, you know what? That does not look bad at all. So keeping my eye on that. You know, I did my top 10 list. Since then, there's been new stuff coming out and new announcements, and I'm pretty excited for this month of games. I'm going to be doing some more varied coverage here too, so stay tuned for that. Expect some more videos this month besides the once a month weekly PC gaming news update, right? All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoy the content. As always, I'll see you next time.